Hi there. Do you ever have a brilliant idea? You just think, oh, this is genius. And you're really excited about it. You can't wait to get your team together and explain your amazing, fantastic idea to them. So you prepare it, you deliver it really well, and they don't get it. They just can't buy into it at all. And it's really frustrating because you're thinking, why can't they get this? Why can't they see what a genius I am? And there's several reasons why this can occur. One is that it may not be a good idea, of course. Second reason could relate to your relational leadership, which we're not going to talk about in this video. But a third reason could relate to something called cognitive frameworks, which I'm going to talk about right now. And rather than go through the theory, what I'll do is I'll give you an example. So unless you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, you probably realize that the United States health system kind of swings between basket case and train wreck. And if you look at the data, it kind of supports that. So if we look at the cost of data per capita, in other words, on average, how much per person does the United States health system cost, you can see right away sticks out like a sore thumb, which of course you can't afford to get fixed because healthcare is too expensive. And so you think, well, maybe the healthcare is just better and that's why it's more expensive. So then you think, well, how do they measure the quality of healthcare? Because it's not just about whether you get silk sheets instead of polyester ones. There's got to be more to it than that. And one of the key measures of the quality of healthcare in a country is to look at life expectancy. And then it gets even more depressing because you think, hang on a minute, the United States has the most expensive healthcare and their life expectancy is the lowest. So this is not looking great. And it gets worse because if you look at, debts, okay, over 40%, 41%, and they reckon this is going to increase dramatically over the next 12 months. So a significant proportion of people in the United States have medical debt, largely in the kind of level of, I'm not going to be able to pay this back in my lifetime. And if you look at that group of people, 51% of those people have medical insurance. So even if you've got medical insurance, it still doesn't protect you from the nightmare of medical debt. Obvious question is, why don't they change it? Well, one reason is that it's difficult because there's connections between the decision makers and the health industry, which is a really polite way of saying a significant proportion of politicians are in the pocket financially of the health industry, and that's just to do with the American political system and how it's funded. But the really interesting thing is if you go out in the street and ask people, and I've seen people do this, and you give them all these figures and ask them about their experience of healthcare and affordability, and they just say, oh, it's a nightmare. So you say, well, why don't you do what so many other countries do and have some kind of levy or tax system that's based on income, and then healthcare is delivered to everybody, either free or massively subsidized at the point of delivery. And they say no. And you think, what? Even people who are suffering the consequences, they say no, can't do that, can't do that. When you say why, they say, well, that would be communism. Which from the perspective of New Zealand or Australia or the UK or Canada, you just think, what? Is that insane? So the point I'm making is that when you've got this genius idea, it's not good enough to just go and tell people your genius idea and assume they're going to adopt it. You have to have a real insight into where they're coming from. What's the framework that they have that controls things like how they see the world, how they perceive things, how they react to things? Because it's your job as a leader, not just to tell people about things, it's your job to get them to believe in it. And there is a world of difference between knowing about something and believing in it. And there's a wonderful analogy from social complexity theory where they look at the spread of diseases and they say it's like giving someone a leaflet about the flu is not the same as getting them to catch the flu. And when you think about it, when people say, oh, this leader is really inspirational, what they really mean by inspirational is they get me to believe in it. And that's what real leaders do. Really interested in your thoughts.